In this video, we will look at an example of repeated percent change. So suppose a 4-inch tall plant is planted in a garden and the height of the plant increases by 50% per week. We'll use a spreadsheet to help us think about the situation and have it do some of the computations for us. So in this first column, we're representing the number of weeks since the plant was planted, and we just have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 weeks since it was planted. And then in the second column, we'll represent the height of the plant in inches. So we know that the height of the plant starts at 4 inches, so the height 0 weeks after it's planted is 4. Now, since the height of the plant increases by 50% per week, anytime 1 week passes, the height becomes 1.5 times as large. So anytime 1 week passes, the height of the plant becomes 1.5 times as large because the height is increasing by 50%. So if we want to know the height of the plant any given week, it's just 1.5 times as large as the height 1 week prior. So to compute this height, right here, 1 week after it's planted, we would take the original height and then multiply by 1.5. And then we'll let the spreadsheet do the rest of these computations for us. So we'll just tell it each time 1 week passes, multiply that starting height by 1.5. So we see here that the height of the plant is actually increasing by more and more inches each week that passes. Since any time 1 week passes, the height becomes 1.5 times as large, we say that the 1 week growth factor is 1.5. But what if we want to know the 2 week growth factor? In this case, anytime 2 weeks pass, so maybe from 0 weeks to 2 weeks, the height of the plant becomes how many times as large? In this case, if we let the number of weeks increase from 0 to 2, the height of the plant increases from 4 to 9, and therefore it becomes 9 divided by 4 times as large. And 9 divided by 4 is 2.25. And therefore, the 2 week growth factor is 2.25. We can also think about this growth factor in terms of a percentage. So if we multiply that growth factor by 100, we get a value of 225, which means that anytime 2 weeks passes, the height of the plant at the end of the interval is 225% of the height of the plant at the beginning of that 2 week interval. And if the height at the end is 225% of the height at the beginning, then the height of that plant changed by 125%. So that comes from this percent of minus the original 100%. And therefore, anytime 2 weeks passes, the height changes by 125%. We could do a similar thing for the 4 week growth factor. So if the number of weeks increases from 0 to 4, then the height varies from 4 to 20.25, and that 4 week growth factor is equal to the height at the end of that 4 week interval divided by the height at the beginning of the 4 week interval, which is about 5.06. To do the percent comparison, we would just multiply that growth factor by 100, which tells us that at the end of any 4 week interval, the height of the plant is about 506.25% of the height at the beginning of the time interval. And therefore, the height of the plant actually changed by this number, minus 100, which equals 406.25%. So anytime 4 weeks passes, the height of the plant changes by 406.25%, and therefore 406.25 is our 4 week percent change.